For lesson 6.2, the essential question is, how did the Renaissance influence Northern Europe? So we know that the Renaissance began in Western Europe, which is this area in red, and it specifically started in Italy, right? We learned about Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci and Botticelli and all these others painters in the first lesson. But then it also began to spread to other areas like Germany and Belgium, France, and London, which is what we're going to be focusing on in this lesson. So first we have the creation of the printing press in Europe, which was made by Johannes Gutenberg in Germany. So this is very similar to the woodblock printing of China, right? Like they did it first, but this invention was made in Europe, right? This is the European version of that. And so what it did was that it made it easier and faster to copy things as opposed to writing by hand. And so here we see a paper being copied, right? And they have like a printing shop. And so the Gutenberg Bible is known as the very first printed Bible because if you remember before, all the Bibles were copied and handwritten by monks. But now Mr. Gutenberg printed a Bible in using his invention, right? So that was very significant because now even the Bible could be copied over and over and more people can have access to and read the Bible for themselves. Some important figure would be William Shakespeare, right? And so he was a playwright and he wrote a lot about human emotions. So it was very clear that he was influenced by humanism because of the way that he wrote his characters and his plays and his poems, focusing on celebrating humans and they're valuable and they're important and their achievements and so on. And so he wrote a lot about romance and tragedy and comedies that were funny, and so now people can go out and see his plays be performed or like read about them. So again, like he wrote many plays, sonnets, poems, etc., and a lot of which are very famous today and very many of them have been turned into movies, right? Like Romeo and Juliet is very famous, and then we had the little cartoon called Nomeo and Juliet. Okay, and also this was in the vernacular. So William Shakespeare used the everyday English language of the time. So it made it accessible to people so that they could understand it, they could read it, and they could also enjoy it, right? So just to kind of recap, right, in medieval times, monks would write text by hand or make copies of the Bible by hand. These were manuscripts. They were the only ones that could read and write. And then the printing press was invented by Gutenberg in Germany. And so in Europe, they began to see the printing of reading material and books and all of these pages that could be easily copied quickly and inexpensively, like a lot cheaper. And again, this was very similar to the woodblock printing in China. And so now you have these authors like William Shakespeare who can like write plays and sonnets and about romance and comedy and focus on all of these human experiences. And those can be printed as well, and people can have copies of these plays, or they can go see them be performed live, right? But we have his famous Romeo and Juliet, and then his famous play called Hamlet, which is supposed to be like the story of the Lion King, if I am not mistaken. But anyway, so here we have his two famous creations. So now let's talk about the art of the Northern Renaissance. this is called the Arnolfini Wedding Portrait by Jan van Eyck. It's an oil painting from 1434, and he's from the Netherlands, right? And we could see here that there's like a couple holding hands. She's kind of holding her belly, right? Because we think that she might be pregnant, right? This seems like they're in their bedroom, right? But it's a lot of beautiful details, and you know, they have their dogs. So aside from, you know, the artistic talent and technique that this painting shows and all of the details, right? Like here we can see the chiaroscuro in the dress, and we can see the folds, right? We can see shadowing in the bed. We see a lot of perspective, right? Because behind them we can see that there's a small mirror, and so they're in the front and they look bigger and taller, which shows that the room has depth or distance, right? And you know, we have the window. We could see like a little orange in the window, or more oranges right here. There's just a lot of detail in this painting. And then of course the influence of humanism, because it is showing a couple. They're married. Being married is both a commitment and a celebration, and you know, like a promise that a couple makes to each other. And you know, and they might be starting a family, right? So definitely celebrating that, and how now this marriage is gonna be a family, right? And of course their little pets are also important and worth celebrating and including. But I want to share how amazing this painting is, right? So if we look in the back, right, we see that there's the mirror, right? So here's the mirror. If we zoom into the mirror, you could actually see that the reflection is in the mirror, right? So here they are too, which is so tiny, right? We also see that there's two other people here, which we're not sure who they are. And then on the outside of the mirror, you have these little paintings that are even smaller, right? So if we zoom in some more, this is the painting. So this is like Jesus on a cross and some other two saints. So all of these little circles here are actually related to the Bible, right? And I'm not sure what they are called. Okay, but that's this here, okay? And in addition, right, like here, oh, here we see like more zoomed in, but look at the detail on the beads, right? And here's the mirror, there's a reflection, there's a little people on the outside. Apparently these are like half of the size of your fingernail, so they're very, very tiny, right? And then here we see the people again, right? Like these two people that we don't know, but we see all the detail in the window, the little oranges. Just crazy how he managed to do that in such a small space. Okay. Another painting from the Renaissance is the self-portrait at the age of 28 by Albrecht Dürer. It's an oil painting in the 1500s from Germany. Okay, so this is a self-portrait, right? So again, we see some chiaroscuro with the shading on his face. Is very realistic. We see texture in his hair and his curls and his hands. We see a lot of detail there, right? It's a self-portrait, so it's like a proportional size, proportion, as in the correct size of what he actually looks like. And this is also another painting that's influenced by humanism, because the artist decided to paint himself. So this would be kind of like taking a selfie. So it's not just that humans are important, but also the artists who create these beautiful paintings are people too, and they are important and should be celebrated and captured, right, forever in the form of this painting. So a lot of the times we enjoy the art that people create and go to museums, and we don't always think about the artist or the people that created them, and how they're humans too, and they should also be celebrated and as the people that they are, not just for this like amazing painting that they made, or this amazing piece of artwork that they made. All right, so this is the end of our lesson for 6.2.